Well, we just saw the first trailer for Avengers Doomsday, and it is pretty weird. We gotta talk about it. Also, my cat Mortimer is sitting on my lap because he loves the Avengers movies. Specifically, he loves that rat that was in the truck that opened up the portal. I'm sure when we watched that scene at home, he was very engaged. Anyway, so today, December 15th, the first Avengers Doomsday teaser leaked online. And I know what you're thinking. First, if you haven't heard about this, here, let me explain real quick. Avatar: Fire and Ash comes out this week because this is the last huge blockbuster of the year. Partially, I think, because the movie studios want their movies to be in the conversation of like what to be excited about in 2026. Also, because sometimes for these movies, this first teaser will come out 6 months before the movie releases. And since it is December of 2025, you have a lot of big movies that are going to come out in summer of 2026 that now have their trailers done. They want to get them out. So Avatar is a perfect time for that. Big ones, you've probably already seen the Supergirl trailer. There may be a trailer for a Steven Spielberg alien movie called Disclosure. And then because Avatar is a big IMAX event, Christopher Nolan's making his Odyssey movie, which is also, obviously, very IMAX. He loves IMAX. And he's taken a scene of the movie, it's like 5 or 6 minutes, and put that in front of IMAX screenings of Avatar: Fire and Ash. So this has become like this big trailer showcase for 2026. Marvel really has one movie coming out. 2 if you count Spider-Man, but that's Sony and Marvel, and I don't know what they're thinking about doing with that. But the second one is Avengers Doomsday. That doesn't come out until about a year from now, December of 2026. However, I think Marvel wants to get in this conversation with The Odyssey and Supergirl and Disclosure as like a big movie for next year, get in people's heads. Even if it isn't a lot they're going to show, they want to get people talking. So Marvel has cut 4 teasers that are going to be shown in front of Avatar: Fire and Ash, but they're not all going to be shown before Avatar: Fire and Ash. One's going to be shown the first week, one's the second week, one's the third week, one's the fourth week. And we don't know what they all are. They seem to focus on different characters, perhaps. This first one was very much focused on one character. It's possible that by week 4, there'll be what is more of a conventional teaser, but this is sort of unprecedented. Movie studios don't usually do this. And I think Marvel knows if they want to get people excited, they want to get attention for this movie, they should do something new. So this is something new. Now, it seems like what they did was they sent the trailer out to some influencers. I was not one of them for some reason, but one of the influencers, I guess, leaked it or something. So there's a very low quality version of the teaser, which so as of now, that is all I have seen. However, I think I more or less get what this first one is. There's a couple of images. You've probably seen them floating around. And it introduces an idea about Avengers Doomsday that we had not seen yet. It had been rumored, it was very exciting, but we had not heard any confirmation until this moment. Now, I will say, spoilers if you want to go in completely blind and not know anything about the teaser trailer or not know anything about the movie, although this is something I think it will be really hard to ignore. Like, I think this will be on every poster. Okay, so here's what this trailer was. Is that very dramatic kind of Avengers music played on one piano. It's supposed to be very serious. It wasn't the usual kind of epic version of the Avengers score. If anything, this was a simpler one, which makes sense because I think of what they're going for. So the first thing we see is a house people who watched Avengers Endgame might be familiar with because it is the house that Steve and Peggy appear to live in the last scene of Avengers Endgame. So it's like, oh, didn't think we'd check back in on that house. Then a man parks a motorcycle in front of the house. We do see him take off his motorcycle helmet. It's a blue helmet with the white wingtip, reminiscent of Captain America's helmet from that 90s movie where he rides a motorcycle. And I will say for a second, I was like, oh, is that what the motorcycle helmet in Easy Rider looks like? But the Captain America motorcycle helmet in that looks different, just like a traditional flag. But it's like, oh, Captain America motorcycle helmet. Well, that's interesting. Captain America's used motorcycles before. And hey, we're in front of Captain America's house. But he's not been announced for this movie. Chris Evans did not get a chair. There's been no indication, publicly at least, that Steve Rogers will be in this movie. So then the guy walks into the house. The next shot is him putting away the Captain America costume from the end of Endgame. Seems to fold it up, put it in a box. Then we get the last image of this trailer, which is the first actual look at this guy. And it is Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, as we left him in Avengers Endgame. But he is holding a child. And then that's the end. That's the big reveal. It's like Captain America still exists in that timeline. He has a kid. Then we get the on-screen text. Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday, ending with the Avengers logo and a countdown timer counting down till the release of Avengers Doomsday. And it appears that is the whole thing. That is all we get. So that's why I think these first couple of trailers are going to be character focused. This one is the Captain America trailer, which announced that he's in the movie. I don't imagine every trailer is going to announce a new character, but I think they wanted to start with this one because they knew it would get a lot of attention. Rumors have suggested he's going to be in this movie for a while. This is something people that keep up with stuff like this have heard. Now, without spoiling stuff that I think will be the basic premise of the movie, will be in the trailers, and I could be wrong about this, but this has been kind of the rumor about this movie for a while, is that the plot of the movie will revolve around Dr. Doom going after Steve Rogers because Steve Rogers, existing in this timeline that he's not supposed to exist in, at least not in this age, caused an incursion that maybe killed Dr. Doom's family or something. You may be saying, hey, Dr. Doom isn't known for having a family. Yeah, that's true. So that's an interesting idea too. We'll get to that if we find that out in another trailer. We'll talk about that later. But first, I think it's worth mentioning, that's interesting because that is a plot point from Avengers Endgame. Now, everybody on Earth saw Avengers Endgame. If there is one movie you can take plot points from and just assume people will remember, it's that. Also, I imagine before this comes out, a lot of people will rewatch Endgame. And at the time when I was watching Endgame and we learned that Steve did go back in time and live a life, I remember thinking to myself, like,
I don't know if you're allowed to do that.
We don't know all of the rules of time travel, but based on the very little amount of information we were given by the Ancient One, you can't mess with things without putting them all back. And like, Steve going and living this life is messing with things. And we learned from Loki that doing that is going to create a branch in the timeline and maybe create another multiverse, which Loki is currently holding them all together. But as we know from Doctor Strange, this can still be dangerous. Like, these universes can collide and destroy each other. So if that is the plot of the movie, that's interesting, because one thing that these Avengers movies used to do is take things from old movies and go, oh, you know what, that scepter is actually an Infinity Stone. And the Tesseract is also an Infinity Stone. They would retcon these things that had not been made canon, but like sometimes they were fan theories and sometimes they were just ideas that were kind of left open, and turn that into the premise of the movie. So like, I don't think the idea of doing this is that dissimilar from what they've done in the past. I know there's some people that are saying, well, I liked Steve's ending, bringing him back, I don't like. I understand that premise, but like, A, this is comics, nobody ever completely stays out of it. B, Marvel knows that if people see him in the movie, they will get excited and they will go to see it. Like, say what you will about people on Twitter and even like YouTube commenters like myself who are like, oh, I don't know if this is such a good idea. For every one of those people, there are hundreds of other people that will be like, oh, Captain America, cool, I liked him. And like, I don't think that this has the same weirdness, like this smells of this same desperation of the Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom reveal. Because what that felt like to me at least was like, we need an excuse to put Robert Downey Jr. in this movie, so let's just have him be Doctor Doom. We want to have Doctor Doom be in it, so let's make him that. Which compared to this, like, I think there are some fun story reasons why Steve Rogers can get pulled back into everything. Like, that can be interesting. And to do that, you have to get Chris Evans back, so like, that's a nice bonus. But also, like, I don't think it feels like as fan servicey, I guess. And we'll see what the story is with Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom. Maybe he has to look like Tony Stark. But like, I could see a world right now where like Cillian Murphy plays Doctor Doom and it works. I can't see a world where anybody else comes in as Steve Rogers. But like, okay, so bringing Steve Rogers back for this, is that a good idea? And I'm sure there were people at Marvel who are thrilled to bring Chris Evans, Steve Rogers back for this, because that gets people excited about the movie. They were fans of the original Captain America movies and want to see more of him. Sure, there were some people working at Disney who were not as excited because he probably cost a lot of money, and we do not know how much of a role he will actually play in the movie. But like, I would say this would suggest it's at least a kind of significant role. Now, I think there is an interesting story you can tell here. You can really only do with Steve Rogers, right? Tony Stark is dead. Can't really bring Tony Stark back. Natasha also dead. Can't really do anything with her. Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, still around, presumably still active. But Steve Rogers is the only one of the original 6 Avengers who is still alive, but just like not doing superhero stuff. He is retired. He has a quiet life. I think it's important that he's a member of the original 6 Avengers because like, I think Steve Rogers is interesting as like a plot device here because he is meaningful to all these other characters. Everybody in Phase 4, Phase 5, Phase 6 have some sort of familiarity or relationship with Captain America, right? Like, he is meaningful in a way that I don't think any other character is. And it's also true to audiences. Like, us seeing Captain America is going to be exciting. I'm sure there's a lot of people who saw this trailer and just got really excited. But I think it's interesting because you have the narrative and the meta-narrative. The meta-narrative is everybody is interested in seeing Captain America come back. Maybe they don't like it, but they're like, why? What are they planning to do with him? The actual narrative is, if Captain America is brought back into the picture, if he's put in danger, or if he's forced back into the field, all of the main characters are going to be like, oh, this is interesting to me. This is important to me, right? Like, you might bring back the characters that have retired, the newer characters who see him as a role model. It'll be very meaningful for them to protect him or whatever they're doing. Or if Doctor Doom is right and Steve did create like an incursion, it's gonna be interesting to see a character like Doctor Strange have to go like, listen, Captain America, I know you're happy and you have a kid, but we do have to destroy your whole life, including the child, because of the multiverse. There's some characters where I'm like, oh, Doctor Strange is gonna have a tough day, you know, breaking the news to that guy. But like, Captain America is a different story. So if the team behind Avengers Doomsday came up with the idea for this movie, and they're like, well, we need it to center around one character, that everybody has an opinion on, that everybody wants to protect, that the audiences are going to feel precious about, that the audiences are going to be excited to see again. There's really only one, and that's Steve Rogers, if you don't count Loki, because the version of Loki that we know from the Loki show is also a character that is a multiversal anomaly. He is also doing all kinds of interesting stuff with the multiverse. Perhaps that would get on Doom's bad side. And he's a character who, like, everybody would also have a really strong opinion about. But instead of being like, oh, no, we got to protect him, Dr. Doom might be able to convince them, like, oh, we got to kill this guy. What he's doing is bad for the universe. Listen, I'm not saying that's, like, what I think the movie secretly is or what it should be. But just looking at characters who are active, like, not dead, who could you bring into this story? And you could make a plot device. I feel like it's Steve Rogers and Loki. And, like, I guess technically Wanda, but as far as I'm concerned, she is still dead. I know she's not dead, but, like, in the universe of the movies, she is dead. But, like, I am pretty excited for this. I like Chris Evans, Steve Rogers. Like, that is a fun version of this character. It's going to be interesting to see him interact with a lot of these newer figures. Like, if you just look at the announced cast of Doomsday, there are a lot of guys there that I'm like, oh, it'll be interesting to see him interact with potentially Magneto. Because, like, he fought in World War II. Magneto was a Holocaust survivor. That's an interesting relationship. He also, fights with a big metal shield, so it'll be interesting to see Magneto deal with that. Steve Rogers was pretty close with T'Challa, so at this point, he probably doesn't know T'Challa has died in universe. But, like, Shuri, who is the Black Panther now, also spent some time with him. Like, there are a couple of times in these movies where a character has said, like, listen, I don't usually stick my neck out, but, like, I will for you, Captain America. And we have some of those in this movie. Ant-Man is in this movie. Sam Wilson, the current Captain America, is in this movie, which is also going to be interesting because based on the cast of this movie, we have currently 5 Captain Americas. And by Captain Americas, I mean super soldiers who kind of are Captain America, not necessarily all technical Captain Americas. Like Steve Rogers, former Captain America. You have Sam Wilson, current Captain America. You have Bucky, who is kind of like the presumed second in line behind Sam to be Captain America. Then you have John Walker, who became U.S. agent, but before that was Captain America, like took Steve Rogers' place, did a very bad job with it. And then you have Alexei, who is the Russian version of Captain America, who has never met him, or maybe he has, and there's some really interesting story, but like, it'll be really interesting to see him meet Captain America. I can't wait to see Walker meet Captain America. You can get really cool fight scenes where they're like all throwing the shield back and forth and doing weird stuff. And there's just one bit of the big airport fight in Captain America Civil War that didn't make it into the final version of the movie, but you could find it online, where Cap is being chased by War Machine. He drops the shield, Bucky picks it up, tosses it at War Machine, it hits him, then Sam catches the shield midair, throws it back to Captain America, and it's like, oh, it's the 3 Captain Americas like all taking the shield and working together. It's fun. You can do that here, and now you can do it with Walker and Alexei. And also, Peggy Carter, while she has not been a Captain America in this universe, in the What If universe has been a Captain America, and in Doctor Strange has been a Captain Carter. So maybe she can be part of this little frisbee toss we're going to do in this movie. Also, it'll be interesting to see Steve Rogers bounce off of Mr. Fantastic, because Steve Rogers is very driven by like morals, idealism, all that stuff. Whereas Mr. Fantastic sometimes is more of a pragmatist, he's more of a scientist. So those 2 different leadership qualities are probably going to clash. Cyclops, if he is also the leader of his mutants, will probably clash with Steve Rogers. That is very interesting. And I've seen people criticizing, like, wait, is he just going to be Captain America again? Like, we just introduced a new Captain America, and he's got some time to do stuff. He had a show, he had a movie, he was in that cruise ship movie, but like, it doesn't feel like Sam's had like his time as Captain America. He was never the only Captain America for an Avengers movie. And, like, I get that, but also, I don't think Steve Rogers needs to be Captain America. I think Steve Rogers will probably take on the code name that he took on during the Vietnam era, which was Nomad. Like, for a very short amount of time, Steve Rogers quit being Captain America. He got a new costume, and he was like, I'm a man without a country. I'm just doing my own thing. He got back and became Captain America again because he realized, like, I can stand for America without necessarily representing what America is doing right now, which is an interesting idea. It's kind of what Captain America seems to be doing between Civil War and Infinity War, but like, this maybe would be like proper Nomad, maybe it would be like a name they would give him. In my head, I'm like, I don't see a world where he's just living as Steve Rogers. Like, obviously he looks like Steve Rogers, but I have to assume he has some sort of fake name. And if that's true, it could be fun to give him the fake name Jack Monroe. Like, we could learn that's what he's been living as, because Jack Monroe is the name of like the Nomad who took over from Steve. Although I think there was another Nomad between those two, but like, Jack Monroe is the main Nomad in the Marvel Comics universe. Will he get the dopey cape? You never know. But then let's talk about the most important part of the trailer, the baby. Steve has a baby. Now, Steve Rogers, Captain America, unlike many other characters in comics, traditionally does not have a child. Bucky is his child, kind of. Not really, but like he was his kid's sidekick the same way that Robin is Batman's kid's sidekick. But while I wouldn't say most Marvel characters have kids, it's happened. Scott has Cable, Banshee has Siren, obviously Wanda and Vision have the 2 kids. So it's not unheard of, and in the movies now, a lot of these guys have kids. Hulk has a kid. Hawkeye has kids. Thor traditionally doesn't have a kid. He's got one now. And then the rumors were pointing to Dr. Doom potentially having a kid that he has since lost. Also, Iron Man in Avengers Endgame had a kid. So while Captain America in the comics doesn't usually have a kid, the fact that they have given him one lines up with what they've done with a lot of the other heroes from his class or like his age. And like maybe that's going to be a theme of the movie, like fatherhood, generations, trauma, probably stuff like that. I don't know. Now, to be fair, there have technically been children of Steve Rogers. They are usually from alternate timelines or what if universes or something like that. I want to go over a couple of them because I think this is important in order of like which one I think this will be. Not that I think this will necessarily be any of these, but I do think they'll give this baby a name. And I think, especially because of how the Russos usually do this, I wouldn't be surprised if it is based off of like just the name is like a fun little Easter egg. So Cap and Sharon Carter apparently had 3 kids. This is in an alternate universe. They were brought into Battle World as part of the Hickman-Ribic Secret Wars. They don't really do too much and they're not important. Their names, I believe, are Nick, Steve Jr., and Ellie. And Ellie is the one that, like her father, is a superhero. And it seems like she fights an evil version of Captain America or something in her universe. It doesn't matter. These kids don't matter. Then you've got a kid named Crusader. She was from a What If comic where the idea was, what if the Avengers and like the heroes and everybody didn't leave Battle World, like they were stuck there. So like the one from the original Secret Wars event. And in that story, a bunch of the people who were stuck there all have kids. These are not traditional couples, at least this one isn't, because this one was Steve Rogers and Rogue had a kid named Sarah, and she was called Crusader. Again, doesn't really matter. Then you've got a character that I think was called Super Spy. I can't remember. His name is James. He was in the movie, the animated movie Next Avengers, where it was like the kids of, again, it's kind of like that last idea, except this is the more traditional Avengers all paired off into couples, and Steve and Natasha had a kid who was Captain America of this team of children. I believe they were brought into Marvel Comics like briefly, but they mostly exist in this movie that people like, and it's probably good. I don't know. I haven't seen it since it came out. All right, so in the last 2, there was Ian, who was adopted. I believe he was Arnim Zola's kid or experiment or something. Cap took him in, raised him, and Ian became the next Nomad. I don't know if he's like the current holder of the mantle of Nomad, but this character is not necessarily related to Steve Rogers, but he did take on a superhero mantle, so that's not nothing. And then the last one, and the one that I find the most interesting because of how much they definitely couldn't do it, and also because of how weird the connotations would be, but because of how well it actually fits this, because Steve and Peggy did have a kid once. This is from one of the mobile games, like Future Fight, I think, or Contest of Champions. So this character is technically the closest to what we're probably going to be dealing with in this movie. Problem is, she's named Sharon Rogers, which would be weird considering this Captain America made out with Sharon Carter, who was Peggy's niece. So like it feels weird for him to name his daughter after her, especially because like in these universes, she's still alive. Like she's not dead in the MCU. She didn't sacrifice herself to save Captain America in a way that's like, man, that was meaningful. He's got to name his kid after her. If anything, if you think he was naming his kid after somebody, maybe it'd be Erskine, so it'd be like Abraham, but I'd be surprised if they went with that much of a deep cut. And then maybe they would name the kid Tony, but that one also feels a little weird. I don't know. So anyway, those are Captain America's canonical, and by canonical, I mean most of them take place in alternate universes or out of continuity or whatever, but those are the kids that Captain America has had. That's how much this character usually is not known for having kids. Because Bucky is his kid. Adult Bucky is his kid. So anyway, wrapping this up. Do I think the idea of bringing Steve Rogers back to these movies reads as a little bit desperate? Sure, I could see it. I'm sure even if you came up with the best story reason for like why it has to be him, that would still lead to a room full of executives just salivating at the idea of bringing Chris Evans back. It's going to get headlines. People are going to be excited. There are some people I'm sure who will be like, oh no, I thought his arc was over. That's up now to the Russo brothers and the writers of the movie to like make it worth it. come up with a good reason why he's back. I also think for anybody that's like, oh no, they're bringing him back, this is kind of undoing what happened in Endgame. Even if you didn't think he was coming back for Doomsday, I don't think there was anybody who didn't think he would show up in some capacity in Secret Wars. Also, he has been out of this universe for when this movie comes out in late 2026, 7 years. That's a very long time for these kind of things. So it's not nothing. And also, I don't know, maybe he dies in this movie, and that would be interesting. I've seen a couple of people online be like, how are they even going to explain this? It's like, I don't know, man. They've got all kinds of ways they can explain it. I think the idea is interesting. I think it can be interesting. And like I said, to be fair to the people behind the movie, Steve Rogers is a very specific character. He gets a reaction from people that pretty much no other character coming back into these movies could get. And I think besides being helpful for the marketing, that could be something that is important in the plot of this movie. So yeah, I think it's cool. I will make videos about the remaining trailers as they come out. Yeah, and I hope Marvel, if you're listening, I think doing this is fine. I think this is exciting. I think the chair reveal was the kind of stupid marketing thing that worked so well. And I liked it because it didn't give away very much. Besides announcing the cast, something that we would all have heard about by now, it gave everybody something to be excited about. This one moment in these visuals, that is the kind of thing that is so valuable and so helpful here in getting people excited about your movie without actually showing it to them. And I hope 2026 isn't full of trailers for Avengers Doomsday. I hope after this, and maybe I guess the Super Bowl, and then Spider-Man, I hope there's not too much else. I want to make it to at least September without seeing a full trailer for this movie. That would be good. Speaking of movies, there's a new short film you can watch made by friend of the channel, Patrick Willems. It is called The Dinner Plan, and it is about a man trying to navigate a business dinner where he also is allergic to all the food. And what's awesome is you can watch that short film right now on this video sponsor, Nebula, which we just introduced 3-day trials for Nebula. You're like, what's Nebula? Well, it's a subscription streaming service that I helped to create. I've talked about this many times in many videos before, where me and a bunch of other YouTube creators, people that make videos about history, culture, current events, science, all kinds of stuff. It's a very big list of what we make videos about. But Nebula is a platform you can go to watch all our videos early, ad-free. You can download them on your phone. But Nebula is curated. I don't know if you guys use YouTube a lot. I do, for all kinds of stuff, and it has so much AI. And some of it's obvious AI, right? Like a movie trailer for Avengers Doomsday, and it's all the characters just kind of turning. But there's also AI content where it is a disembodied voice talking about a news thing or character in a comic book or something. A lot of times I'll be like, what is the deal with this vigilante character? I would like to learn a little bit more about him pretty quickly, so I'll put on a YouTube video. And if I did this 3 years ago, it's people who know what they're talking about, who are fans of the character, research the character, whatever, and they're human beings. And I love that. Do it now. Unless you see the person's face or you know who they are, it could very well, and a lot of them are just AI videos where the AI talks about the characters. It drives me up a wall because you don't always know it until you're a little bit in and you're like, oh man, something about the way this guy's talking just doesn't feel right. But sometimes they just do sound right, and it's not until you're pretty much done with the video that you're like, damn it, that wasn't a real person. And Nebula, it's got a lot of great things going for it, but one main one that I love to tell people about is it's all real people. We're making it ourselves, and all the videos getting made on it are made by us, and it's very cool. And a year of Nebula is already a steal. It's $60 a year, $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, in the month of December specifically, you can get a year of Nebula for half that, for $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an incredible deal. Also, like I said, it's December. The holidays are coming up. Gift giving is always stressful. You get somebody a t-shirt that they're going to wear once or twice and maybe won't fit. Or you could get them a subscription to a streaming service made by creators they love, that lets them watch those videos early without ads, lets them download them to their phone. And you can get that for $30 a year if you get it within the month of December. That is an incredible deal. That cannot be beat. So again, go to go.tv/thenandocut in the month of December and get a year of Nebula for $30. It's a great deal. Watch The Dinner Plan, watch all my videos early, watch all the other cool stuff we put up there. You're going to love it.